Fibroids. Fibroids are non-cancerous growths that develop in the muscular wall of the uterus. These growths are made up of muscle and tissue and can be different sizes. Fibroids are common. Around 1 in 3 people who menstruate develop them at some point in their life. Many people don't have any symptoms, but symptoms can include heavy periods, painful periods, abdominal pain, lower back pain, a frequent need to urinate, constipation, pain or discomfort during sex, and symptoms which affect day-to-day life.
Hi, I'm Lindsey and I have had fibroids for a number of years, but was officially diagnosed in August-September 2021.
Symptoms.
So my symptoms were increased bleeding and increased pain, and I did track my periods with Clue, but I also was using a menstrual cup at the time, and so it was quite easy for me to tell, that there is so much more blood than normal. I noticed that I was more likely to have bleed into my underwear, to have accidents, and that wasn't a fun thing to happen. And so I think actually when I started to notice that a bit more, that was when I thought maybe I should go and see the doctor. But the pain, as I said, I didn't have painful periods when I was younger so much. I had the odd cramp, but it wasn't a consistent thing. And so the thing that made me realise it was different was it was every single period, and it was absolutely crippling for the first 2 or 3 days, and then a little bit on the 4th day, and then it kind of calmed down. And so it was the consistency and just the extent of the pain that I guess I just got to the point where I couldn't manage it anymore. And my cycle is only 24, 25 days, so that's quite frequent to have 3 days out. More than 10% of my time was spent in pain with my periods.
Going to the doctor.
Built up to the extent that I went to the doctor because the pain was becoming quite oppressive. It was interfering with my life and with my work. And I was offered cocodamol. And so I took that when I was having my period pains, and it wasn't really, it was helping a little bit, but it wasn't making them, comfortable enough to just live with. And so I went back to the doctor, and she gave me mefenamic acid, which is like an NSAID painkiller that you can take alongside cocodamol. But I didn't notice much difference with that. I had been going to see her, regularly, but over the period of time, talking about my painful periods and asking for painkillers, but she didn't volunteer that maybe I should go and get investigated. So that was maybe one aspect of it that wasn't ideal. But when I did say I feel I've reached a wall with this, my painkillers are not making a difference, it laid out the symptoms, like how often I was having to change my menstrual cup, how bad the pain was, how long it was impacting me, and the kind of impact that it was having on my wider life. She was very receptive. She just referred me straight to gynaecologist for an ultrasound, and I went for that. And they said that I have multiple fibroids, and the largest one was 4 centimetres by 4 centimetres, which they said was quite large. I guess I regret not going to the doctor sooner, but I do think that's just kind of emblematic of how women are told or just taught from a young age that, having a period is normal and you have cramps, and so that's just something that you deal with, but you don't really have a frame of reference as to what's reasonable cramps and what's normal and what's, heavy bleeding. And so that my experience of the bleeding and the cramps was just mega dramatic compared to what I would think was a regular period for me anyway.
Impact of fibroids.
It had an impact on my day-to-day, my ability to work, my ability to just be in any form of comfort. Normally I go out for walks like most days, and I didn't want to go out for a walk because you're just doubled over with the pain often. I didn't go to the gym, and it just made me miserable. You know, it was just really horrible to be in so much pain, and the painkillers, because they're really, really strong, you know, they made me feel a bit grim as well. I had never experienced a level of pain that had caused me to actually cry, and to be lying on the bed, like writhing and crying for over an hour was just so scary and so exhausting. It was not a nice thing to have to go through.
Managing fibroids.
I thought it was quite amusing when I went back to the doctor for my results, because she said, well, you know, I mean, there's a couple of different treatments, but, you know, would you want a hysterectomy? And at that point, I was just a bit like, that's the first option. That seems a bit extreme. That's major surgery, removing one of my organs. And I mean, I wasn't even 40 by that point, and so I asked if there were other options, and there were, and they said, well, you know, also there's the coil, which is really effective because it can really reduce the bleeding and reduce the size of the fibroids, because it's a hormonal coil that they use and the hormones act on it in some way. That was in November 2021 that I got the coil fitted, so we're now over a year and a half later. My periods are definitely lighter, but I wouldn't say they're light. They're much lighter than they were, and my pain is much more manageable. I still get pain, but it's usually only the first day or so of my period.
Talking about periods.
Being able to speak openly about it is really important. I think when I was younger, certainly talking about periods was just not done. It was and still is, I think, quite stigmatised. You know, there's an idea that periods are unclean, or somehow, you know, women are unstable during them, rather than it just being a natural and essential part of, you know, life. It's really important to talk openly about it. My work was very supportive. My partner was very supportive. My doctor was very supportive, and I think I almost feel now that I will voluntarily talk about it, you know, to people, because I think it's so important that people hear the word period and hear the word womb and hear the word fibroids, because, you know, there's so many women out there like myself before I got diagnosed who might be experiencing really heavy periods and really bad pain, and like me, just thinking, well, this is just, you know, normal. This is just what I have to expect and to put up with. So I think the more people get comfortable talking about that, or, you know, get comfortable making other people feel uncomfortable by talking about it in front of them, I think that's really important, because hopefully that will mean more people are more prepared to go to the doctor earlier and don't have to deal with it for so long.
If you're concerned about your period, visit your GP.